So here's a bit of a sneak peek at the discussion that we had. Just to be clear, neither of us have taken steroids ourselves. We're not doctors, not medical advice. However, I think it's an interesting discussion that does draw on our knowledge and first-hand experience of others doing these things. So with that being said, here's a little preview.
What's the next step? You know what I mean? Now you have like, they legalize roids. Everyone's out on roids. You know what I mean? It's like you can get cannabis at a bar now, like you can get roids at the gym. It's in a vending machine.
Grandma on trend.
Yeah.
Boy, watch it, mate.
Just snaps her wheelchair in half, like, smashes her cane.
We all do have a genetic potential. Like there is a limit to how much you can naturally gain. And that might require so many aspects of your life to be dialed in: nutrition, diet, sleep, recovery, optimal training, etc. And with all of that, it's still going to be a matter of time where it could take 5 to 6 years to get to where you want to be. Now,
and here's the podcast from the beginning, The Ripple Effect, episode 5.
Yeah, maybe we could go on to the steroid conversation piece.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So, the other day I was at the aquatic center, and there was this fucking staunch dude there, and he came into the sauna. I gotta ask. I was like, "How many kilos do you weigh, bro?" Like, he's like, "This guy was like fucking Viking huge."
I think I know the guy you're talking about, man.
Yeah,
because I've seen him in the sauna. It's ridiculously big, like almost like Eddie the Beast, but without the fat.
Yeah. So he weighs 125 kilos.
Yeah, right.
And he was like, "Yeah, I'm actually 10 kilos down from my heaviest, but I've had a spinal injury." I was like, "No shit." I was like, "Fucking good effort."
The type of guy that you're wondering how the seat's supporting it. Yeah.
And like, I guess I was curious, like, because I was like, "Oh, like, what do you weigh when you were like in your teens?" Because like,
what do you weigh, pre-roids?
He's like, "No, I was tall and skinny." Like, and he was like, even with supplements, wink, wink, you do need to put in the work. And I was like, that's an interesting thing that I wanted to talk about on here, because you see it in the comment sections of a lot of online things where there's someone that's super jacked, and then there's a heap of people questioning whether they're natural or not.
Yeah.
And then there's like people going, well, even if they are on steroids, it doesn't take away from the hard work. Or it's a person that is openly on steroids and someone's like, yeah, heaps of juice. And someone's like, yeah, well, you still have to put in the hard work. And, the thing that it makes me think that would help people not have to have this fucking back and forth of accusation of being on steroids or degradation.
Judgment.
Yeah, or taking away from the hard work is to know exactly, what is the difference they make. And it's difficult because each person responds to them differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could take them and only gain like a small amount. You could take them and blow up, and we could be on the same dosage. So it's not exactly apples with apples.
Right, yeah, it's not like a specific science. Yeah. No, I'll be honest, man, I've been intrigued about it myself. Like, it's something that my opinion on it has always been up until this last year. Up until then, it's always been like, if someone's on roids, I was turned off boxes and that I found out were taking roids. I'm like, you're just cheating. You know what I mean? Like, it's weak, like, to a degree. That's what I was seeing people as. That was my opinion on it. I was like, nah, anyone that takes roids, like, take them away, you're a bit of a bitch, you know what I mean? But I'll be honest, my opinion has changed the last year, because I'm like, I suppose it's partly through with age, being 34. It's like, how much could I benefit from taking them in terms of how much better, like, the more muscle growth that I have, the less fat I put on. Because I know a lot of people that have taken roids, and like, they've only done a few cycles, say, right? And it's maybe a couple of years ago, but they've maintained a bigger overall size and stature from those days of doing the roids.
Yeah.
So like, I know mates that have gotten like literally taller. Like, I've noticed they've grown like slight bits from like a lot of, I suppose, the muscle they put on as well, strengthening all of that and posture and all of that sort of stuff, I guess, with the roids. But like, their overall size has stayed at a higher base level. So
yeah,
that's what made it interesting to me. I'm like, if there's only one size you can get to, it would be awesome.
Yeah. So with regards to there being, a size potential, we all do have a genetic potential. Like there is a limit to how much you can naturally gain. And that might require so many aspects of your life to be dialed in: nutrition, diet, sleep, recovery, optimal training, etc. And with all of that, it's still going to be a matter of time where it could take 5 to 6 years to get to where you want to be. Now, the thing is, what's realistic for you to do? Are you going to do all of those things with that level of consistency to get those results? And that's where I think a lot of people diverge, where they're like, you know what, I want the results now. I don't want to do all of that, and I don't want to wait that long. I want to jump on now and get to what could be my genetic limit or beyond that, but that's involving steroids.
Yeah, speed up the process.
Yeah,
I don't want
exactly.
to be 40 and have the results, or 45. I want to be 35 and have it, or 25.
What's always occurred to me with steroids, though, that I think, I'm free choice, and if someone wants to do it, they should, but they should have the informed awareness of what that means. What's the risk benefit?
Yeah.
And so to the way I see it, let's say your chi or your power is typically spread over the course of 70 years, like maybe a bit longer.
Yeah.
When you do steroids, it can condense that down into like 30, 40 years. And so you live a more high-powered life, but then you've kind of used up that energy, and at 40 or 50, you're more likely to end abruptly.
So the only thing that makes me question that is, what about like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone?
That's the
78 or something.
Yeah.
Still, he's going to the gym crazily, but like obviously high levels of energy. I mean, making movies still, or like series. I think there's a Stallone series. Like it's like, to me, that's I reckon that'd be on like probably HGH, as opposed to just testosterone.
I guess
probably higher quality.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you'd imagine that they'd be on a level of TRT blasting that much. They probably did end up having a maintenance dose in the, from then on. Yeah. But, there's probably a level you can get away with that's not super detrimental. And yeah, it would be HGH as well. The other thing is they have enough money to throw into the health side of things. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, to support that habit, you know what I mean? So that they can have the
longevity.
Things that balance that out. So
yeah, because Arnold Schwarzenegger's had a few heart surgeries now, right?
I didn't know that. I know he has had one, but okay.
Yeah, but then there's definitely, quite a few. There are definitely ticks in the like, steroids can be done healthily kind of.
Exception to the rule.
Yeah, it seems so, because there's probably, at least, I don't know, it seems like 3 times or more that you hear about that are dropping dead between 30 and 50.
Detrimental effects, not to mention like just, your acne, like back acne.
Yeah, that picture I sent you the other day, that shit was fucked up.
The chest, the back, like, I mean, so I suppose you have to weigh the advantages and disadvantages. And if you can optimize all those things you were talking about, sleep, nutrition, stress levels, all of that to the absolute max, I suppose the first step, like for me, like I'm the same in terms of pro-choice. Like, that you want to do it and put in the work, go for it. Like, I'm not going to judge you, but I suppose what I do see a lot with it though is like people doing it to an addictive level, like where it's not even like, I don't think it's even beneficial in terms of like looks or aesthetics, or beneficial in terms of for the strength and that. So they're actually so bulky that it's probably uncomfortable to live that big, and it probably makes it harder for you to move. You'd lose agility. The amount they're in the gym would have to be hours per day, like to get to that Arnold Schwarzenegger type level. So for me, when you look at that, I'm like, that's not a positive. Like the negatives for me outweigh the positives. But I suppose the first step for people, or the wiser way to go about it would see where you can get to naturally,
100%,
and adjust all those different areas of your life, your nutrition, your protein intake, like all that sort of stuff, your sleep, obviously your stress levels, and then from there, once you're at a point where you've plateaued, to a degree, or you're not seeing many gains. I'm not saying go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I'm saying at least exhaust that avenue first.
Yeah. And do you know what? That's what I'm doing myself. But do you know what I think is something that I've always considered? If you did steroids and you gained to like your peak physique, you've been bigger than you ever have, leaner, and then you come off and you can't get back to that off steroids, of course, you know, you could probably, you do have satellite cells. So if you stretch your muscle and etc., you could gain back, like, let's pretend you get to your genetic potential, you go on steroids and then you get, you know, 5 kilos more than that.
Yeah.
You come off steroids, restore your hormones optimally. Maybe you can gain back 1 kilo and push beyond what your genetic potential would have been anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still always going to look at yourself with a comparison of where you were on steroids and be like, fuck yeah, but I'm not quite as big as when I was on steroids.
Yeah, see, the thing with me is I think that knowing that the steroids have made me bigger overall than if I hadn't taken them, I'm like, this is awesome. Now my testosterone, all that's at an optimal level, and you know my hormones are rebalanced, and I've got some form of gain from taking it for that short period of time.
And there can be a risk that you don't get your testosterone back to the level it was pre as well.
Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not just that, even anger and rage is something that deters me from doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I've obviously had my temper issues, but yeah, that would scare me. Like I wouldn't want to, you know, you hear of roid rage all the time, the acne that you showed me the other day, like
Yeah.
with some people. The other things, shrinkage. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of different things there's a lot of disadvantages, I suppose, that can come. And if you can optimize your muscle gain and get it all perfected, you don't even know how big you can get. I mean, even other like supplements and things, like there's one, I think, turkesterone. Like is one that Andrew Herman was talking about. It was like one of the highest boosting testosterone supplements you can get. So like if you exhausted all, not only optimizing your sleep, optimizing all those things we talked about, like your health and your nutrition, all of that stuff, got it all dialed in, and then you took supplements that could help you with your testosterone. I mean, how far could you get then?
Yeah, well, I've found, like I said to you the other day, I've got my test levels. I think the lowest they've ever been, talking nanograms per deciliter, was about 550, 600. And then the highest I've ever seen them at was like 1250. But that wasn't necessarily a functional level because I'd come off like being burnt out and exhausted. And ironically, that somehow led to higher test levels, which is weird, counterintuitive even. But yeah, I've had them stable at like 1,000 before. And when I've been at that level, like I've felt powerful, it's been good. And I wasn't taking any natural test booster either.
I think you were saying to me the other day, so that like an optimal level for males is 900.
Yeah.
900 or above.
Like, it depends because each person can have a different level of sensitivity to it. So someone can be like 300 nanograms a deciliter as an outlier, but be making heaps of muscle and feel strong.
Yeah, right.
But there's definitely a correlation where higher tends to be more dominant, like aggressive, or not even aggressive, but yeah, driven. So like, let's say the typical upper end of natural range is towards 1,200. And then like there have been people at 1,500, for example.
I'm excited because I had the blood test recently.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get those testosterone levels. I think
Keen
it's
to
next
see
week. I've never had it done before.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see it because I think potentially with the antidepressants for so many years and that, like if it affects your libido, I don't know how much it can affect your testosterone, but potentially a fair bit. So it's excited. And I love the fact that you that was all natural.
Yeah.
Naturally got them double your testosterone.
Yeah.
So if you exhaust all those avenues.
One of the most profound times that I saw a difference was when I went overseas for 8 months. And yes, vitamin D is a precursor and that would have had a massive impact. Also, meditating, doing yoga, not being in stress, huge impact.
Yeah.
Also, a thing that I feel really contributed to like maybe, 5 to 15% of the gains was living in truth and really putting others' kind of interests, ahead of my own in a healthy way, not people pleasing, But like, let's say there was an opportunity to hook up with a girl, and it would have been good for my ego, but I could see it wasn't what she needed.
Mhm.
You know, living kind of a spiritual path where I was like, actually, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Even though I could, you know, feed my ego right now, I'm going to do what I feel is right from a higher level.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then really try to stay centered in not lying at all. Because something I thought about after this, let's say you're just lying here and there. There's always going to be a level of stress. Is that going to get found out? Which is going to translate to cortisol. And cortisol is one of the things that are most diminishing of testosterone.
In that case, I'm minus 15. This meme the other day, it's like they made a bracelet that converted your stress into energy, and the guy's just glowing, like Mr. Burns in the Simpsons.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's exciting to see that. But yeah, all of that would factor in, wouldn't it? If it's cortisol, because I mean, you're taking that guilt on because you're lying to somebody or whatever, or let's say forget even other people, like you're just not doing things aligned with your values.
Exactly.
You're pushing down what you value.
Yeah.
And you are people pleasing. You're doing, which I lived for so many years.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm coming out of that the last year or two, but yeah, like doing that for all the years. Not only, like, I mean, I've had no scientific, no blood tests or anything to show the testosterone status, but you feel like a weaker version of yourself.
Yeah.
You're walking around and you're not doing what's best for you. You're not, you know, you have no, it's not that you need to be domineering, but being respectfully assertive is really empowering.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that empowerment also translates to testosterone. You know, I'm sure there's physiological things where, oh, you're not as stressed and, you know, etc. But
nutrition and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also the mental side, you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. Living a values aligned, like you said, and kind of alignment with spirituality, whatever that is within yourself, that, you know, is the right way for you to be living in an optimal way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the interesting thing, like when it comes to possibly taking testosterone, it doesn't sit well with my values.
Yeah.
Because I value, like, particularly, you know, in sports, but that's just one aspect of it. I don't respect people that cheat in sports. Like, to me, that's, you know, it's essentially you're, particularly in boxing, whatever, but even in football, whatever it may be, you can really hurt someone and damage them because you're enhanced. And I don't think that's right. You know, I think that's the wrong way to be, unless you're at the enhanced Olympics where everybody's on it.
Yeah.
Then it'd be fair, you know, like gladiators back in the day.
Yeah.
Then that's fair. You know?
Yeah.
Because you're all on. Yeah, I actually heard that they're bringing that out.
Yeah.
That's Olympics.
I think they should, for sure.
That'd be crazy, man.
You'd imagine that.
Superhuman steroid strength.
That'll get some viewer. I'll watch that.
I've watched that, man.
Yeah.
100%. I don't know if I want to see, I don't like seeing women extremely muscly.
Hard to, like,
That's a
looking like
challenging way.
they can compete against the men in the typical Olympics.
Yeah, so in the enhanced, surely they could.
But it'll be interesting to see how much someone that's going to the Olympics in the enhanced Olympics will push the boundaries. Because when you're trying to get an edge and drug use is open, it'll be interesting to see, you know, how, and there is a limit to, you know, more doesn't always equal better results, but there is a point where, you know, because basically you can keep doing like 10x what another person's doing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you get 10x the results. You might get 5x the results, but 20x the side effects.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be awesome to be able to have that comparison. Like, you know, I'm not saying that I'm pro those games, you know, because there is risk and kind of disadvantages. And what I worry about is where that leads to. What's the next step? You know what I mean? Now you have, like, you know, they legalize roids. Everyone's out on roids. You know what I mean? It's like you can get cannabis at a bar now, like you can get roids at a gym. It's in a vending machine.
Grandma on trend.
Yeah.
Boy, watch it, mate.
Just snaps her wheelchair in half, like, smashes her cane. So I worry about where it will lead, but like it'll be so interesting to see the comparison. Like to be like, all right, so they've ran, you know, the 100 meter 0.2 seconds faster than any athlete ever has. Like,
hey, this is exactly the same as the last guy.
They're slower. You know? But that's the only thing for me. It conflicts with my values. Like I'm more open to it, and I do. I said, I don't judge other people. It's like I don't drink or do drugs, but I don't judge people that do. By all means, do what makes you happy, and whatever that is, go for it. In terms of sports and athletics and that sort of stuff, I think it's unfair if one person's on it, the other person isn't.
Yeah.
When you see it in boxing, like, multiple times, and if the other person's, like Ryan Garcia recently fought 780, like, it was always kind of a skinny, weakish dude, like not a real dominant Mike Tyson type guy, like more of a gentle, sensitive person. When I'm Royds, he started like starting on everyone, every press conference, like, you're gonna have a fight, like, just turned like complete, not himself, like completely different person, you know. And he destroyed 780 like in the ring, like, and they found out afterwards he was on roids, and you could tell he'd gotten so much bigger in such a short period of time. Muscles on his neck and
it's always a giveaway.
Telltale sign, yeah. But like, in terms of that, it's unfair. You know what I mean? I think like this other guy's trained his whole life, and now you're enhancing, he's not. But
you got to be in the same field, like, and I think giving them the enhanced Olympics, like, if people are wanting to do that, put their body through that damage to do that, and I'm sure people want to watch as well. You know, if people were going to do it anyway, you know, and try and get away with it, better just to do that. But there is the problem, like you said, like, what influence does that have on society?
now everyone's going, oh, you know what? Steroids are actually positive for you, the athletes, and then talking about how much of a benefit it has, how much better they feel. So then, like, it's now more mainstream.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, well, you know, sooner or later it's going to be legalized.
Yeah.
Sooner or later you're going to head down that path that, you know, free of choice. And, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's the governor. But yeah, it's interesting. So do you think there's like, we talked about, like, you know, the risk of taking it. Do you think there's like a benefit without any negative, like, focusing on the benefits? What do you think, like, in terms of, like, you know, lifestyle, longevity, like, what kind of benefits do you think there could be?
It depends on, like, you know, obviously we're talking pretty low doses, and let's say your test levels were at 400, 500 nanograms a deciliter, and you're like, you know what, I want to get them up to 900, which, you know, is like, it's different for everyone. Like, someone could take 125 milligrams of test, another person 200 to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you get to 900 nanograms a deciliter and it's not too high, because let's say when people are on full blast cycles, they're more like 2,500, 5,000 nanograms per deciliter.
Okay.
Yeah. So theoretically, that could give you, you know, an enhanced sense of well-being. It could give you, you know, more drive. It could give you, you know, all of those positive attributes, but it could also create more anxiety. It could create more stress, etc.
Yeah, there's
So-
always that risk, because I've heard from people. Sorry, you finished. Then, yeah.
No, go.
I've just heard from people, like, that have taken it, that said they feel so much more clarity and focus, and so much more productive, like, in terms of their business. I'm not just talking, you know, being able to lift two women above their shoulders, but like, in terms of their business, where they're everything, they have better energy levels, you know. And in terms of that, I'm like, that's appealing to me, especially having such a, you know, high stress lifestyle, or life that I've lived. You know, it's like, wow, it'd be really cool to have that clarity and focus and energy. I've always lacked energy, you know. So I suppose that's a part of it that's appealing to me.
Absolutely. But yeah, it would depend where your test levels are at, you know, and that's where the blood tests would be quite helpful.
Yeah.
But even then, like I said, for different sensitivity, you really want to know where were your your test levels at when you were at 20, where were they at optimally and where they're at now? Because without having that baseline, it's less easy to see if you need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things I think you'd want to, again, not just aiming to get to your genetic potential naturally, but also seeing how much you can optimize your test levels naturally. And if you can get them to 800, 900 naturally by yourself, but it just requires a bit of, you know, a year of lifestyle intervention, decreasing stress, getting more vitamin D, getting, better diet and sleep routine, then spend a year optimizing your hormones, see how that feels. And then like, if you still, but the problem is, let's say you're like, okay, cool, got to 800, still feel like I could have more clarity and more drive. I'm going to hop on now. And you get to like 1,000 or 1,100 nanograms a deciliter. The problem with doing that, you know, and obviously that would mean you'd have to do it underground, because you have to be under 300 nanograms a deciliter to be considered hypergonadal, to be considered for TRT.
For person.
So then if you were going to go that route, you're trading, you know, you're kind of not only your natural status, but also you're then having to pin, however often, being reliant on testosterone for such a small little gain. And if it's, you know, only giving you like 10% more clarity with side effects, and now you're relying on a pharmaceutical that you're not even getting through a mainstream channel.
Yeah, essentially it's illegal.
Yeah.
What you're doing as well. So you
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
that stress.
Well, imagine you lose your source, and then you're now going to go through like a withdrawal of sorts, because you need to go through a process to restore your natural production, and you want to make sure that you don't go through that
It's
without
not like a cold turkey.
yeah
Yeah, absolutely. The risk, I think, outweighs the positives for me. What I've found with people, this is maybe the last piece on this one, but what I've found with people as well is, when's enough enough? And that line gets so blurred, like you said, but I could have more clarity and focus. But I could achieve more and be more productive in my business.
Yeah.
You know, instead of going to sleep at this time, I could wake up at 4 a.m. and with the testosterone, I'd have the energy levels and I'd be able to push through, do 2 workouts a day after, you know, 1 in the morning, go to work, 12 hours, then do my workout, then go to sleep at, 9 o'clock. So like, when is it enough? You know, look at Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, still going and they're close to 80.
yeah
Like, is that really ideal for your lifestyle? I mean, it seems to work for them.
totally.
But when do you call it quits? Does it become like an addictive, compulsive thing?
I guess it depends. And something that put me off it is I saw a study that was indicating that it could decrease your level of empathy. At least there's a correlation between it.
I could see that.
Yeah, and I was like,
Makes sense.
that's something I wouldn't want to fuck with, because, you know, it's kind of your humanizing factor.
Yeah.
But I guess what was coming to mind as you were describing that type of scenario, when is enough enough? What are you willing to trade off? Like, are you willing to potentially die at 50? Because let's say you could have a heart defect, etc., that you're unaware of, and like it or not, steroids definitely, there's certain things that could have affected you in your 70s, but you're going to bring that forward a decade or two if you enlarge your heart and put more stress on your system. Are you willing to get some potential benefits now for the next 2 decades at the cost of the later ones?
Do you think there could be like a detriment and a decline in your potential age that you live to due to stress factors that testosterone could help you with?
Yeah.
So like, if you're living in a low state of testosterone and you're lacking clarity, focus, drive, energy levels are lower, higher cortisol levels, could the testosterone, like, could that counteract each other potentially? I mean, I don't think this is a definitive.
No.
There could be a definitive answer.
No, I think what would occur to me is, if the stress and the reasons for low testosterone were due to lifestyle factors, adding in testosterone probably isn't going to resolve that. Like, if you've still got the stress, that you're going to add more hormones into the mix, and maybe it helps, but maybe it also just could cause more stress in some way, because having more testosterone can be a bit more sympathetic engaging.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and not only that, I suppose, like, just I could relate to that, or a correlation, like, if you take anti-inflammatories as opposed to actually doing the exercises that heal whatever injury it is that you're dealing with,
solves it for a little bit, but creates a worse problem down the road.
Down the future, and you haven't learned the techniques and the underlying reasons that you need to learn to be able to deal with that in the future. And so, ultimately benefit yourself without drugs. So
I think
yeah,
the other thing, though, to answer that question as well, is if you did have low test levels that were genetic or, some sort of physiological reason that you're not producing it, pituitary issue or whatever, and that is causing your stress and other things, then yeah, there probably would be life benefits in terms of longevity. There would be longevity benefits to taking testosterone.
yeah,
But the people that qualify for that are probably like, 0.1% of the population, and they would be exhibiting things that would be like really evident of them having low testosterone.
I'm excited to see what levels I can get to
Yeah.
in the next year or two. Like, particularly like also not drinking, no drugs, no cigarettes.
That's huge. That's like,
I think being so like in 3 months, man. Like I took a video today of myself where I went and had an ice bath and that's in the mirror, and like the changes in my muscle tone and everything are crazy in 3 months because of the sobriety and sticking to like optimal nutrition.
yeah,
Lack of stress, like recently. I mean, obviously, life happens, but like I'm not working at the moment, so I have a lot of time to really focus on the things that are going to make my mental health more positive, and optimal. So I've been doing all this like mental work on myself and physical, and in 3 months, man, like I'm really happy with it. You know what I mean? And I haven't been going extreme. Like
Man.
it's maybe 3-4 times a week,
yeah.
varying.
Without
imagine up and that to 6 or 7.
Without the drugs and alcohol, like so much detriment to your hormones, and then, knowing how to train as well,
Yeah.
but then having your body in a state where it can recover and actually have anabolic potential makes a huge difference. Like,
Yeah, because so many people would be like taking steroids, right? And they'd still party
yeah,
on the weekends, all that sort of stuff. Like if you took out all the partying and you really, like you said, honed down on it for 1 year, where could you get to?
yeah,
Do your research. Make sure that you're doing the correct lifting, getting the proper nutrition, getting the right protein, all that sort of stuff. Like, meditation, I think, as well. Because cortisol, it hugely depletes, you retain fat and
it's catabolic.
water retention. Yeah.
But I think everyone's on a different path. Like for someone maybe taking steroids and partying and, having a business is, their journey.
Feeling, yeah.
But I think if you have the awareness of choosing that path, then it's probably not the path for you. If you have to consider it.
Yeah.
And
you have that slight conflict where you're questioning it.
Yeah.
That's a sign, I think.
Yeah.